In the early hours of the morning at Yellowstone National Park, while campers were rising out of their sleeping bags, there was something sinister lying off the trail just a few feet away. The sun had just risen, creating an orange hue in the sky. Campers began turning on their travel stoves to prepare fresh coffee. Most hikers were already outfitted with summer clothes and ready to start their day. Many already had in West Yellowstone on the Buttermilk Trail, a well-known and scenic 2.5-mile trek. The weather was perfect, and all outdoorsmen were excited for the day. This was until an unsuspecting hiker stumbled across a bloody and horrific scene. This is the story of Amie Adamson. To understand how we got here, we have to go back, all the way back to December 12, 1974, when Amie was born in Sacramento, California. She would go on to El Dorado High School, and from there, Empress State University in Kansas, where she received a bachelor's degree in English education. Following college, Amie went on to teach high school English for over 20 years. She liked to travel and discover new places, which led her to teach at multiple schools in Kansas, California, and Arkansas. Amie had a passion for helping others, which would be evident in her career and other parts of her life. She was an extrovert who would go on to positively impact many lives. Wherever she chose to reside, she always found a way to make it home. Amie had another passion that she would eventually commit her life to: cross-country hiking. Back in 2015, Amie felt burnt out from the state of the American education system and desired to live her life as she deemed fit. So in February, she made the choice to step away from her education career. Anyone who has left a well-paying career understands just how terrifying this step can be. Amie placed all her belongings in storage, drove to the East Coast, and set out on a 2,200-mile backpacking trip across the United States alone. Specifically, she would hike the American Discovery Trail that spans from Delaware to California. Amie was captivated by the outdoors and loved being in nature, discovering new places. Eventually, she would end up in West Yellowstone, where she had a job at a KOA. Over the years, she had developed advanced wildlife survival techniques and had a deep respect for nature. The location was perfect for Amie, and she loved the work. Her days were filled with adventure and peace. That is until July 22, 2023. Amie, 48 at the time, woke up early and would start her morning just like every other day with a hike. On most days, she would vary between walking or jogging, and there was no reason to suspect today would be any different. She chose the Buttermilk Trail, which is about a 2.5-mile trek through Custer-Gallatin National Forest. So as you can imagine, you are surrounded by plenty of vegetation and wildlife. It was a well-known beginner-friendly trail, often used by many individuals for walking, horseback riding, and off-road vehicles. Amie was completely alone at this point, so there are no witnesses on what happened next. Most likely, Amie was jogging on the Buttermilk Trail, unsuspecting that she was directly headed towards a dangerous beast hidden from view. Around 8 a.m., another unsuspecting hiker was on the same trail, trying to enjoy the good weather. However, as they walked, they noticed something in the ground and went over to investigate further. The hair on the back of their neck stood tall as they looked down directly at a large bear print clearly outlined in the mud. The hiker gripped their bear spray tightly and with sweaty palms continued to walk forward. That was when they stumbled across it. At first, it was hard to comprehend, but soon the realization of what the hiker was looking at became clear. It was a body, more specifically, a woman's body. The victim was clearly deceased, as there were red traces of blood seeping into the ground, and the body had been brutally mauled. Authorities were quickly notified, and the Custer-Gallatin National Forest issued an emergency closure of the Buttermilk area. An investigation into what happened began. It was evident this was a bloody bear attack, and unfortunately, Amie was not carrying bear spray or any other protection. She was simply at the mercy of Mother Nature. Bears are known to be massive creatures that grow to be nearly 10 feet tall and can weigh over 700 pounds. Their thick fur and heavy hide serve as a strong protection against other deadly animals. Grizzlies have massive claws, but what is really more deadly is their long teeth. They're naturally programmed to go for the neck due to them being the alpha predator. In their ecosystem, the only real perceived threat is another bear. The Gallatin County Coroner's Office confirmed the body was Amie Adamson, and her family was notified. After further study, her cause of death was not due to a hard blow, but actually exsanguination, which is just a fancy word for blood loss. Wildlife workers would go on to cover the area with signs warning people of a potential aggressive bear, as well as set up multiple traps. These traps were created from metal culverts and baited with meat. However, their biggest lead occurred that Saturday night when a wildlife camera managed to capture an image of a mama bear with 2 cubs. With this in mind, experts believe the attacks appeared to be defensive, which meant that neither the bear nor Amie was expecting to encounter each other. It is not uncommon for grizzly bears to be protective, especially if frightened. Add in the fact that this mother bear would have had at least 1 cub with her and would almost certainly perceive a human heading toward them as a threat. Even if Amie was completely unaware, it is not a situation you want to be in. This is further solidified by the fact that Amie's body was badly mauled but not eaten. This meant that once Amie was no longer perceived as a threat, the bear stopped. It is not common for bears to eat humans because historically, bear attacks on humans are not predatory, and if a bear is startled, which is most likely the case here, it will unleash its fury. Over the weekend, everyone in the area was on high alert as the Buttermilk area was buzzing with workers. A full-scale bear hunt had begun. Saturday and Sunday would pass with no results, and by Tuesday, wildlife workers began picking up the bear traps. Days would go by, then weeks, and eventually a month. The Buttermilk site would be reopened on August 25th, but not before many precautions were in place. The grounds were littered with signs, followed by social media posts warning people in the area of a possible dangerous bear. Game wardens continued to patrol the park for the following weeks, with no signs of any grizzlies. This caused multiple experts to theorize that the bear had fled the area. Another week would pass and still no new information was found. But finally, on September 2nd, in the early mornings of Saturday, the deadly mama bear appeared. There were reports of a grizzly and its cub breaking into a house through a kitchen window, grabbing a container of dog food before bolting from the area. Wildlife workers managed to track the bear down, where they also found her with a single cub. That same day, the captors were granted permission from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to shoot the 10-year-old mama grizzly. Permission had to be granted due to grizzly bears being protected under the Endangered Species Act. The bear was linked to Amie Adamson through genetic analysis and other identifying factors not specified. Through their analysis, they were able to actually find out this is not the first time this specific bear has been involved with humans. The grizzly was originally captured in 2017 and studied for research purposes. Authorities were also able to link the bear back to an attack in Idaho in 2020. At the time, the bear injured a human near Henry's Lake State Park, although no other details are public knowledge. As of September 7th, the 47-pound cub is being held at the State Wildlife Rehabilitation Center in Helena, Montana. There are plans for the cub to later be transferred to a zoo where it will live out the rest of its life. Sadly, this story ends with a woman having her life cut short, a dead grizzly bear, and a cub now being confined in a zoo. Although Amie would constantly venture out on her own, she was truly loved by those in her life. Her family, devastated by the loss, expressed how Amie had lived to the fullest and had a profound passion for hiking. In one of her Facebook posts, she wrote, "We have nothing to lose and a world to see," showcasing her adventurous spirit and zest for exploration. Amie loved to read and in 2020 wrote her own book called Walking Out, one teacher's reflections on walking out of the classroom to walk America, detailing her experience as a teacher to hiking across the United States. Despite the sorrow that surrounds this story, her loved ones take comfort that in her final days, she was extremely happy with herself, loved life, and truly lived it to the fullest.